Inflation, 3% year over year. Obviously, the system's going to brag about that, but do try to keep in mind that these numbers are always on top of the inflation we already have. And if you carry the one this year, that year, it's sitting at about, 18% in like the last 3 years. That sucks. Joining me now, my friend Carol Roth, who is out with a dynamite new book, and I actually haven't told her yet. Carol, my 14-year-old is reading your new book, You Will Own Nothing, because he's getting obsessed with all this world event stuff. He can't put it down. I caught him last night, 9:45, supposed to be asleep. He's in his bed reading your book.
I love that I'm corrupting your children, Jesse, and just wait until he comes to chapter 11 with wisdom by the great Jesse Kelly in it, and then you can just lord that over him for a very long time.
Yes, I'm going to tell him that's my favorite chapter in the book, and he should actually start there. All right, quit. Focus. Inflation. Carol, it is less than it was. So, okay, it's not ideal, but it's less than it was. That's kind of good, right?
I mean, I've heard that Bidenomics is amazing and that everybody is doing fantastic and much better than they are 2 years ago. It's not like, you go to the grocery store and don't see the numbers that pop up or, look at your bank account being depleted or your credit card balances rising. Just listen to the cute name they gave it, Jesse. Bidenomics. It just sounds so delicious, doesn't it? Yeah, like you said, we're up well into the double digits based on just the government's calculations, which we know have been fudged with and probably in reality are about double what is projected in terms of the real impact on people's lives, not to mention that wages haven't kept pace. If wages had kept pace with it, then it for the people who are working, that's a good thing. Obviously, if you're somebody who's retired and relying on savings, that would still be a bad outcome for you. The big takeaway here is that this may just be a breather for us. And certainly we're glad that it's not up another 9% over, the increases from last year. But they're getting a huge assist in certain areas, particularly around oil. But we have done nothing to fix our energy policy. Europe has done nothing to fix theirs. Last year, there was an unseasonably warm winter, which meant that there wasn't, this great spike in oil prices. But the fact that nobody's done anything, that was just a gift. It wasn't a strategy. And so it doesn't mean that won't come roaring back, particularly if we get a really cold winter, then game's over. So given the fact that we have policy that has moved us away from that, given the fact that we still have huge deficits, given the fact that there's a de-dollarization movement around the world, while we may see kind of this leveling off of the growth, which doesn't mean that the prices are going down. It just means the growth rate is a little bit less on a year over year basis. It doesn't mean that we're out of the woods over the medium to long term. And so, if you are looking at your own finances and going, okay, well, I think things have leveled off and you feel like you should accelerate your spending, do not do that. Take anything that you have and invest that where you can in hard assets. Perhaps in the short term, you put some of that into T-bills, which are paying a nice yield right now, and make sure that you're setting yourself up for the chance that this really flares up in a meaningful way again.
Okay, you say flares up. You think inflation and or interest rates? What's going to do the flaring?
So I think that obviously they kind of go hand in hand. Inflation would come first. And then, to the extent the Fed, depending on where they are in their cycle, feels the need they have to attack that, then they would potentially, as they have done over the past 14, 15 months, then try to go and raise interest rates again. Now, it could be that interest rates start to come down and then they have to raise them up from that point. But whatever it is, either way, that's not a good scenario for you and your pocketbook.
Okay, Liz, you talk in your book about the Fed and how it has transferred wealth from Wall Street to Main Street. But that concept for most normal people like me, it's a little bit confusing. What are you talking about?
Yes. Well, first, I think you called me Liz, which is a new nickname. I might roll.
Oh, I'm
with
sorry.
that.
I'm sorry, Carol.
Do I
Carol,
look,
I'm
do I
sorry.
look
Go
like
ahead.
a Liz? Maybe I'll just be a Liz from now on. At any rate, Liz, the Fed, it's all very confusing to you, Jesse. I'm Carol Roth.
Go ahead.
Anyway, yeah. So basically, their monetary policy has suppressed, take away the last 15 months where they've tried to undo their policy. But before that, we had 15 years of them artificially suppressing interest rates and printing money out of nowhere. And what that did was that benefited people who held assets, who were the already wealthy. So you saw your stock portfolios go up, you saw your homes go up. But if you were a saver or a retiree and you just had money sitting in the bank, you were earning next to nothing on it. And it completely disrupted risk. And if you wanted to earn anything on your money, you had to go out and take more risk. It did other things, like it gave easy money and easy access to Wall Street, who was then looking for places to put it to work, to come in and compete with people to buy homes. Prior to 2010, one of the most interesting pieces of research I did for the book, there was no meaningful institutional capital in the single-family home market. But because of this cheap and easy money from the Fed, now you have Wall Street firms going out, and by the way, some of them aren't even based in the US, one of them is based in Canada, and they're going out and they're buying up homes, which is increasing the prices. And by the way, they're not trying to fix them up and sell them back to you. They're trying to rent you the American dream, which happens to be the biggest driver of wealth across households in terms of dollar value. So this is a huge issue. We're at a point now where approximately 1 in every 5 homes that's sold is sold to one of these corporate entities. And it's just one of the many ways that you have these big players, the Fed and the government, trying to take away these wealth creation opportunities, making sure you own nothing, and who's collecting that value, that wealth that would normally go to middle and working class Americans. Well, it's Wall Street and the wealthy and the well-connected.
Carol, you wrote the book on it, You Will Own Nothing. So help me explain, because all this looks so nefarious to me. When you look at all the players in the game and how much they're crushing normal people, it looks planned and it looks nefarious. Or is it just basic greed? Not that I'm defending 100% selfish greed. What is it? You laid it all out in the book. What do you think it is?
So I think depending on the area that it's coming from, there's probably a different motivation. But overall, what's happening is that there is a shift in the financial world order, a shift in global stakes. And if you're wealthy and well-connected, you have 2 options. You can either kind of hope that everything works out for you and your friends, or you can band together and try to control everything and make sure as much as possible works out for you and your friends. And I really do think much of it is the latter. So it's not that they start with, how do we make sure people own nothing? How do we make sure that, we take away their freedoms? It's more of, how do we make sure that we're protected? And if, non-ownership and their freedoms have to go by the wayside in order for this to all be achieved, well, that's fine by them. And then, the part of the prediction from the World Economic Forum, that second piece of that first prediction, you'll own nothing and you'll be happy. If they can get you to buy into it, renting a home, that big asset that normally drove wealth for your household, forget about that. It would be so easy and convenient if we just took care of that and, you didn't have to worry about calling the plumber. If they get you to buy into it, it's much easier for them to affect their ultimate goal, which I really do believe is for them to just protect themselves, their wealth, and their power.
Her book is You Will Own Nothing. If you want to understand how these I almost said something bad. If you want to understand how these people think and what they're doing, go buy her book. Carol, I love you. It's an awesome book. Thank you.
Thank you, Jesse. Talk soon.
Are you tired of watching your beloved nation fall prey to the insidious grip of communism? The Anti-Communist Manifesto by Jesse Kelly is the ultimate guide to fighting back against this destructive force. Discover the shocking truth about communism infiltrating our education system, corporations, and even environmental movements. unmask the true agenda behind groups like Antifa and Black Lives Matter and learn how to protect the United States from the most malicious enemy. With extensive documentation of past atrocities, you'll see the undeniable danger posed by this ideology. Arm yourself with knowledge and join the fight to preserve the American way of life. The Anti-Communist Manifesto, a new must-read book from Jesse Kelly. Get your copy today at jessekellybook.com or wherever books are sold.